YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, then you obviously know who these beautiful people are, Duca and Roberta. But Duca and Roberta, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are for the people who are watching on the Xantrex Facebook page?
I'm Duca.
I'm Roberta.
And for the past, I would say, year already, we were supposed to be 3 months refitting a sailboat, but it's been a year already. So we bought this boat that was abandoned on the hard outside of the water for the past 22, now 23 years. And we just fell in love with this boat. That was just like, it's amazing how a boat that's been abandoned for so long, it's still in such a good condition that we decide to transform this boat into our dream boat.
And now we are dealing with the electrical part.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the reason why we're here today is because for the past month and a half, we've been redoing the entire 110 system on the sailboat, inverter charger and solar panels, to the whole thing. And doing videos about that generates so many questions.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say that because she answered all the questions.
I try.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah, we try to answer 100% of our questions, and sometimes it's tough because we don't really know how to answer because we are not experts in electricity. We are just learning on the go. So that's why we decide to join with Xantrex and with experts to try to answer in a better way this time. Try to, no one leaves here without an answer. We hope, yeah. That's...
Well, we're going to start officially in about 4 minutes, but if you have a question for Duca and Roberta or for Don or Wesley from Xantrex, just go ahead and leave it in the comments. We're going to get to as many questions as we can. Also, please give us a thumbs up or leave a comment and let us know that you can actually hear us, because we want to make sure that we are coming through with our audio. Can you see us? We see people from Fort Lauderdale, from Germany, from Ontario, Canada, from Pennsylvania, from Washington State, from Sweden, from Somali. Thank you so much for hanging out, everybody. And if you could just let us know, again, we're getting lots of thumbs up, lots of people confirming that they can hear us perfectly on YouTube. If you happen to be watching on the Xantrex Facebook page, would you please leave a comment as well? We want to be sure that our audio and our video is coming through properly on the Xantrex. Audio and our video is coming through properly. Ooh, we good? That's why we started a few minutes early. We good?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, we've got another 3 minutes. What's the weather like there in Brazil today, guys?
Rainy.
Yeah, Brazil. The thing is, Brazil, it's a big country, so it's hard to answer about the weather in different places. Our hometown in the south, it's been cold for like a week, really cold. And here, it feels like summer. Like yesterday was summer, today is winter. Like yesterday was like so hot, it was like maybe 30 degrees Celsius. And now it's rainy and cold until tomorrow.
Cold.
Yeah, not cold. I mean, like, you get used to the cold and then it feels cold, but it's not cold. But it's rainy now. It's just
Don, how's the weather there in Indiana?
It's hot. It's 90s, no rain. It's hot.
Wesley, how's the weather in the office next to me?
That's right. The weather is beautiful outside. I always say that Vancouver has the best weather in the world, but you have to come here to find out. So
it really is beautiful, and we're broadcasting. Wesley and I are broadcasting live from the Xantrex office. Don from Indiana, and Duca and Roberta, of course, from São Paulo, Brazil. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are actually in a town called Guarujá. Guarujá in the state of São Paulo. It's like right on the coast of the big city, São Paulo.
Okay. So we're going to get ready to go live officially. We're going to get ready to officially start. Lots of people letting us know that they can hear us just fine. That's great. We're getting lots of people letting us know from YouTube that they can hear us. If you happen to be watching on Facebook, let us know that you can hear us. Give us a like and leave a comment that you can hear us. And obviously, if you are watching on YouTube, you already know who Duca and Roberta are. But if you're watching on Facebook, you may not know. Duca and Roberta, let's do an official introduction, an official start right now. And if you could let everybody know on your YouTube channel what we're here to do, and I'll let you take it from there.
Yep. So who are you?
Now it's official.
It's official now, yeah.
I'm Roberta.
And I'm Duca. Yeah, we are a couple from Brazil, from the south of Brazil, that for the past 1 year, we have been refitting a sailboat that was abandoned for now 23 years on the hard. And we Yeah,
it's not abandoned anymore.
yeah. It's, right now, if we show you the picture, you're gonna say that's not abandoned, but it was. Like the owner didn't use. It's crazy because the owner actually loves so much this boat, but life took turns that he just left the boat there. He called me this past week actually because he saw the video and he wanted to give us tips on what we are doing on the boat right now. And it's crazy how feels like the boat was meant for us, that we already feel like the boats are home. It's just like we work so hard every single day to try to bring this boat back to life that it's just amazing. And what have we been doing for the past month?
Electrical system.
Yeah. She is the one that answered all the questions for the past year. Before that was me, and now the boat is too much work for me to answer all the questions. So she kindly answered all the questions.
Try.
In the past month, it's like, I cannot answer this one. Can you answer?
Yeah.
I cannot answer this one. Can you answer?
Or
Because
we asked for our friend that's an electrical engineer. So, Fred, what should I answer for this one?
yeah, so she's like, Duca, can you answer this one? And I'm like, Fred, can you answer this one? And then we were like, I think we better just do a live Q&A with who actually understands about electricity, because we don't want to have a YouTube channel where people come for answers and we don't give answers. It just doesn't feel right. If we can, why not show the right answers? And that's why we partner with Xantrex, with you guys, to have experts to just answer the questions for us. And of course, to cut, if I talk too much, you can just say, Duca, please.
Well, I will jump in there and I will say that my name's Adam McLaughlin. I am part of the RVers family. We're part of the RVers TV show on Discovery and PBS. And we're in the process of putting solar on our rig as well as Xantrex Solar. And so I'm honored to be here and to host the broadcast. If you have a question right now, it's a great time to leave it in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or whether you're on Facebook. Leave a question in the comments, and we'll make sure that Duca and Roberta and also the team from Xantrex answer as many of those questions as possible. We also had a lot of questions come in ahead of time, so we're going to take some of those questions as well. But let me start out by allowing the team from Xantrex to introduce themselves. Wesley, sitting in the office next to me, which you can tell by how you see him on the screen. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your job is here at Xantrex.
Hello, everyone. My name is Wesley, and I'm a product manager with Xantrex, and I look after our solar program. And I'm very excited to be here with Duca and Roberta and Adam and Don, and to be able to answer all of your questions. And I'm here to help and here to help you understand a little bit more about the solar today. So.
Okay, great. And Don, why don't you tell us a little bit about your job here at Xantrex and how you'll be helping out today?
Sure. So my name is Don Wilson. I have two roles with Xantrex. I'm an applications engineer. So I help the manufacturers do good installations that meet code and that are going to be reliable. But I also do the Tech Doctor series. So our Tech Doctor articles, which is very educational, technical pieces that doesn't try to talk technical. I've been doing this about 20 years and 25 years in mobile electrical systems.
Great. Well, one of the first questions that came in ahead of time, Duca and Roberta, of course, we've been watching your videos on YouTube, and somebody wants to know, when will that boat be ready to sail? How long do you expect this is going to take?
It's an interesting question, actually.
Yeah, our goal for the past month was to give Roberta as a birthday gift next week, next Thursday, in a week from today, to splash the boat as a birthday gift. I don't think it's going to happen, to be honest. I need to be honest. I could say, yes, it's going to happen, but...
It's been raining for the past 3 days.
Yeah.
And we need to paint the bottle, and we need to do other things. So I don't think it's going to be possible.
Someone say this month that like 90% of a refit goes quick, and the last 10% takes 9% of the time. So right now, we are just like on, when you need one screw and you take like, you lose one afternoon because you need to go back to the store because you have like one clamp for the hose that right before, like an hour ago, we went to the store to buy 4 clamps for hose, and they had 3. They didn't have 4. So we might get like 1 week later. I think maybe 2 weeks to go to the water, like 2 weeks.
But then we need to order the sails, and we need to spend a little bit more time on the marina, and then we are going to sail.
Yeah, I think we are going to spend another month or two on the marina doing tests, going for a day sail to try the boat, and then coming back, trying the engine for hours in front of the marina, and then it's just like like maybe 1 or 2 months in the marina to get used to the boat and to see if everything's working properly, and then we set sail south to our hometown because we told our family that we were going to leave for 3 months, and we've been a year away. So
Wow.
we need to go back to say hi to the family.
So Ken from YouTube is asking, in light of that question, do you have any thoughts of things you would have done differently now that you're this far into the process?
You would plan better the refit, right?
Yeah, I mean like the order of things you do. Because as we thought we were going to take 3 months to do the entire project, we were like, what's the longest project? To paint the boat. So painting the boat is going to take 3 months. So let's paint the boat first. And while they are painting the boat, because we hire a company that help us with painting because it's a huge job, while they paint, we do other things in between. But it ended up that we couldn't do anything. It was so dusty and so dirt that we could not do anything. So we would do in a different order. We would leave the painting job for last. We would maybe, I don't know, do all the steps in all the welds. We had like some welds left to do now they were supposed to be done a year ago. That would be much easier. And other than that, the biggest regret, we have one big regret, that is to take the engine off. If we would go back in time, we would take the engine off the first thing at all would just be to open the big hatch and take the engine off, take it to a shop, and redo the entire engine on a shop, not on the boat. But I mean, like.
But the tip is think first.
Think a lot.
Plan.
Yeah, it's hard to think when you have a schedule of one video a week. Make the decision making is just. If you don't make the decision, you're gonna miss next week. And we strongly believe that if people follow your journey, they expect you to be there every week. Because if we have a video Monday and then next week we just don't show up, and then in 3 weeks we post a video, it doesn't work this way. It's just, I mean, like, I wouldn't like a channel that I really enjoy watching to be like unreliable on when they post. And that makes the decision making so much harder. And that's, yeah. But I mean, life is life. You gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Yeah, we're going to be talking a lot about electrical and solar, of course. And Jim on YouTube is asking about what you've done to prevent or deter lightning on your rig. So maybe you could talk a little bit about, how have you kind of mitigated lightning on your rig, or what have you done to protect against that?
We didn't.
This is a tough topic. We have a couple of friends that also have a YouTube channel called Unforgettable Sailing, and they have a WhatsApp, the app group with the supporters. And he says that in their WhatsApp group, there are two subjects that you cannot talk about: politician and lightning, because it generates way too much discussion when you talk about lightning. I mean, I wish there is one equipment that is a simple, a simple antenna that you put on the top of the mast that supposedly spreads the lightning, but we cannot buy it in Brazil. We won't find for sale in Brazil. In the US, it costs like maybe $100. And if it was possible for us to have, I would install that one. But we just don't have the option. Maybe once we start traveling, we might buy that. For now, it's just how you call in electricity, a cage. Like if the Faraday cage.
Faraday cage.
If the light hits the mast, it's going to go to the water, and whoever is inside of the boat, nothing's going to happen, but it's going to be really scary. It's going to probably burn all the equipment, I guess.
So we've got a ton of questions coming in. Thank you so much for everybody who's asking a question. Please feel free to leave your question in the comments. We're going to answer as many questions as we can as they're coming in, but also we got some questions ahead of time that we're going to answer. Wesley, somebody is asking about the durability of Xantrex solar panels with a saltwater environment. Could you tell us a little bit about the maintenance or how solar panels hold up in a saltwater environment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question, and especially this is a marine topic, so I'm sure that's that's a common question about how do solar panels handle the marine environment. I think things that you want to look for in a solar panel is definitely the the type of testing that the solar panel has gone through. So there's certifications, and also there is the construction of the material. So for example, for glass frame panels, you want to know that the frame, the aluminum frame of the solar panel is anodized aluminum. So anodized aluminum prevents oxidization and corrosion of the panel. And so it's very important that it's anodized so that it prevents corrosion. You want the junction box. That's another one. So our junction box for the glass panels, the one that Duca and Roberta installed, they're IP67 rated, right? That being said, I don't recommend you submerge a solar panel underwater. You never do that. And as far as testing is concerned, you want to look for safety certification. So UL certification is very valuable to know that it's been tested safely to the highest standards in the PV industry. We've tested the glass panel, our panels, to a third-party test lab in very extreme damp and humid and extreme temperature conditions. So we feel very confident that our panels, will work well in the marine environment. As far as maintenance is concerned, very little maintenance. I would say the only maintenance is really just cleaning the top of your panel from time to time, because a panel is only as good as sunlight reaching the solar cells. So taking a warm, damp cloth and just wiping it down, making sure it removes the dust or the salt film, just making sure it's nice and clean so it can absorb as much light as possible is really all the maintenance that's needed. So you really shouldn't have to do anything else.
But when you say maintenance, can I get a hose and wash, get the hose and water hose, and because we are in a working marina. That means that it's a boatyard where people fix their boat.
Mm-hmm.
It's fiberglass dust and sawdust, and it's just so dirt every day.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to walk it. Yeah, we always.
Yeah, that's absolutely not a problem. And in fact, in the PV industry, you'll find actually a lot of solar panels are installed in the desert where there's and dust and desert storms just really get all this dust over. And actually there's special machines that just actually wash and spray down the panels with water just to clean it. So so it's not a problem to wash it down with water. Yeah.
So Duca and Roberta, a couple questions are coming in, and we had a couple questions ahead of time asking if you could explain just really high level overview how your system is set up. So when you talk about shore power, you talk about solar, how do these pieces work together? If you could just give us a quick high-level overview, and then there's a follow-up question for Don coming.
It's hard to be quick for you.
Yeah, I'll try to be quick. Our system is as simple as it can be, except for one key component that not everyone uses that we believe is really important to use. We have a metal boat, so we have a boat that can corrode. So we are always worried about shore power, because when you have shore power, you can have electrolysis through the ground cable of the marina and the whole thing. So for example, when we connect to the shore power, we don't have the energy going straight to the charger. We have a transformer insulator in between. So we isolate our boat from the ground of the marina. That's an equipment that was on the boat when we bought already. So we decided to keep. And so it's simple. We just have shore power to the insulator and then to the charger. And from the charger, we can use either 110 from the shore power that just do a bypass, I believe, right? Wesley? Or Don is going to just do a bypass, right?
Correct.
So it's just going to bypass and use the shore power. Or if we are on the batteries, we use just the inverter to use 110 from the inverter. So it's just a really simple way of it's as simple as it could be. No fancy equipments, just reliable equipments. We rather have simple things and reliable than to have a lot of different equipments that you never know if it's going to work. And we have to charge the batteries. It's either shore power or solar panels that we have from Xantrex. And we are also planning on installing a wind generator that's right next to us. It's right there. Yeah. When we bought this boat, it's a funny story. When we bought this boat, we had a wind generator that just, because there is a brake, right? If there is too much wind, it stops the wind generator. And after 20 years sitting there, everyone say, oh, no, this is not going to be working, because I remember the day the brake went off and just spin really quick and it broke. Many people in the marina said the same thing. And then we were like, yeah, we're going to try. Maybe our friend Fred is going to open up and maybe he's going to fix that, right? So then we met another friend that is in the next marina, refitting his aluminum boat, And he's like, "Oh, so you are the son of a pig that bought this boat because I wanted my son to buy this boat. This was my son's boat. How did you buy this boat?" And we became good friends with him. And 6 months later, this guy's son bought a boat the same as ours, but a little bit smaller, from the same boatyard, the same thing, and came with exactly the same wind generator. So he's like, "My son is not going to use. Do you guys want his wind generator?" And we got as a gift his wind generator to our boat.
And that's working.
And he thought it was not working. We open up, we test, and it's working, his wind generator. So our old one now is going to go to Fred, our friend, that's helping us a lot. So he can try to fix and use in his boat, not in our boat.
So,
basically, I just ran away from the question.
No, that's all right.
The ways we plan to charge the batteries are shore power, wind, solar, and alternator. Yeah. We just bought a new alternator also that we need to install. We didn't install yet. We might do on the water, otherwise we're going to be more late.
Yeah.
So, Don, the follow-up question is, would you recommend an inverter model with the controller? And then can the controller choose the type of battery that it's going to be used, or do you need a controller that's specific to each type of battery?
So I'm assuming the controller, we're talking about a solar controller. And, I actually get asked this question a lot. The inverter is going to do its job and the solar controller should be built into the inverter. It's not, and there's a reason for that, because it really ties you into a specific system. There's some people that want a lot of solar, so you need a larger solar controller, but they don't necessarily want a very large inverter, or they go the other way around. They just want some maintenance solar, but they want a really big inverter to run everything. And so we don't put them in the same box, because then you'd end up with just a whole bunch of part numbers. But so it's not integrated. You don't really want it to be integrated. The solar controller feeds the battery. The inverter pulls from the battery, so they don't even really interact that much, other than they're both connected to the battery. And as far as can you select it, our solar controllers, you can select, flooded AGM gel and lithium batteries. You just want to make sure that whatever solar controller you use is configured for the battery you have and the battery you will have down the road. Otherwise, you're going to end up buying another solar controller.
So, Duca, and Roberta, in that same kind of vein, how did you decide to wire your panels? Did you wire them series or parallel?
You can answer this one?
We decided to wire them in series on the stern of the boat, as we don't have too much shade there and everything. And in the future, we are going to add some other panels, and we probably are
going to go to parallel. Yeah, the idea is to have two different, let's say, group setups of panels. So we have the stern of the boat where we have less shade. So the stern of the boat, as she said, we have already in series.
Yeah.
And the reason why we decide to go with series is to raise the voltage of these panels, so we can have a little bit of energy on the beginning of the days and on the end of the days, late afternoons.
It's working really well.
It's working.
Today it's raining.
Amazing.
And it was on the top charge.
Today was like top charge, and it was raining, and it was still making energy.
Yeah.
And I believe it was still making energy because it was in series. But if it was under the sails, and then we would have a huge problem because of the shading. So when we install the new panels on the cockpit that's on the center of the boat, we are going to do in parallel. So we're going to have the mix. A better efficient system in parallel on the center of the boat, and then a better end and beginning of the day system on the stern of the boat. That's the idea for now. At least. We might change. Don't
We won't hold you to that.
Don't hold me to that. Yeah, that's just the right now plan.
Yeah, no, on the back of your boat, you'd put kind of like a U-shaped bracket where you'd put the solar panels on top. Yeah. And somebody's asked a question, can you walk on the solar panels? Is it possible you could have just covered the deck with solar panels?
Wesley, that's good for you. Actually, the glass one, of course not. The glass one, no way. The ones we have right now, impossible. You're going to just break. I don't know if the flexible, maybe I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I generally don't recommend walking on panels at all. And if you are going to walk on solar panels, do it very infrequently. Wear soft-soled shoes. Don't wear high heels, of course. But in general, especially flexible panels, you don't want to walk on the solar cells. They will crack. But for glass panels, again, I wouldn't recommend you walk it, but if you need to, step on it, in a very rare moment, it shouldn't be a problem, right? So, these panels are not meant to, designed to take the weight of a human. So that's certainly not something we would recommend, walking on panels. Yeah.
Keep it safe, people. Don't walk on those panels.
That's right.
Don't walk on the panel. Nicholas is asking from YouTube about your cooking on board and your electric cooking on board. And do you know anything about the hydrogen systems and why those are not as popular any longer?
I mean, it's funny because I agree with him that should be more often. You should see more often hydro generator in boats, sailboats, maybe because of the drag that creates, because it slows you down under sail. There are small boats that they go electric, and in the electric motor already generates. Like it's like regen they call. So you regenerate energy with your main engine, main motor, electric motor. In our case, we don't have it, and I think you asked about induction cooking also, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we plan in a long, like middle term, to have induction cooking on the boat. I think the problem is not the batteries necessarily; it's more the inverter, because when you have like a induction cooking, you probably want to have also a oven, and if you have a convection oven and an induction cooking at the same time on, you need a lot of watts of inverter. So you probably like need a 3000 inverter. We have right now a 2000 watts inverter, and I think we would need to get a bigger inverter. We might do in the future, not right now. We just want to put the water, but hopefully soon. Yeah, hopefully next year we might go. How you call it, like gasless?
Gasless.
Yeah, we hope one day we take the gas off the boat, because gas in boats is, I don't know, would be.
It's hard to find the gas, right?
And also because we have a metal boat, our boat is so well insulated. Yesterday, like 2 days ago, was so hot outside, and when we get inside of the boat, it was like fresh. It was like so good. It was not hot at all. And this is because we have like really thick insulation all around the boat. But that means that the heat won't come inside. But if you generate heat inside of the boat, it won't go out also. So that means if you have a regular gas cooking system, you generate a lot of heat inside of the boat. And that's just not good. If you have induction cooking, you generate a lot less heat on the boat, because you just heat the pan itself. So that's why we want to have induction cooking.
So Brad on Facebook is asking, and this is kind of related to how much electricity or energy you're using. Brad is asking, how many panels do you have, and how many amp hours do you use in a day?
That's a tough question. The truth is, we are not living on the boat yet.
Yeah.
So it's hard to answer what doesn't exist yet. For the past month, we are being like keeping an eye on what we are doing, and try to keep away from shore power as much as possible, to try to understand what, like, if we turn, for example, if we turn a vacuum on that's 110, or in how much we consume on everything we do. Right now, we don't have enough solar. Right now, we only have 300 watts of solar, but
Three panels of.
3 times 100.
Yeah.
But the plan is to add another 3 on the same spot and another 3 on the cockpit. So that means we want to triple the amount of panels we have right now. So our plan is to get to 900 watts of solar with 600 amp hours of lithium batteries, and I think that's going to be really enough
And
for
it's
us.
the space we have. We don't have more than this.
Yeah, I mean, like, we wish we could have more solar panels. We just don't have the space for it, because it's a balance. You need to balance the amount of space you have with the amount, and you never forget that you're on a boat. You're not on a huge house. You need to get used to that, because some people move to a boat thinking they need to have 100% what they have on a huge house. But the truth is, you're downsizing from a house to a boat. It's a boat. Remember, it's a boat. So we can get as big as we can, but we have a limit. We cannot go like we don't have on our boat space for 2,000 watts of solar. We wish we had, but we just don't.
So somebody, Jason on YouTube, is asking if you chose lithium batteries or if you have a different type of battery, and how you made that choice.
For now, we have regular marine batteries. How they
It's not
call
marine.
it?
It's the regular
Acid,
car.
acid.
You just said
Flooded.
it's the
Flooded acid.
flooded acid. Yeah, that's what we have because that's what's available for us right now. But we are replacing them for maybe a month from now.
Yeah.
That's coming from the US because here you
In
won't
Brazil,
find.
it's really hard to find them.
In Brazil, it's normal for boats to have car batteries.
Yeah.
But like there is one battery company that say that's a boat. It's the same battery. They just put the name boat on to say that this model is specific for boats, but it's exactly the same as your car.
It's more sealed, no?
Yeah, they. No, I think it's almost the same. It's just to charge more, but we have just floated batteries right now. We are going to replace for lithium, and then we keep saying Fred all the time, but Fred is our friend that's also refitting a boat on the next marina that he moved to our apartment right now because of COVID. So he's been living with us for like the past 3 months, and he's probably going to keep our old batteries to his boat.
So because your boat space is so small, Russell on YouTube is asking about if there will be enough space for your inverter to keep cool and some of your other electronics in because your space is so small. Don, can you talk a little bit about to that?
Yeah, so obviously an inverter wants space to cool, but it's not a situation where you need to stay away from all walls of the inverter. You want to look at your airflow and make sure that it can get fresh air and that it doesn't breathe its own hot air. So you don't want to lock it in a foot locker that's too small and it'll eventually heat up. But in their installation, it's actually fairly open and it's using other parts of air from different crevices and everything in the boat. So it's not heat isn't going to be an issue for them at all.
So, but if somebody had a smaller space, could heat be an issue for an inverter?
Yeah, we see that in some markets, especially when you deal with aftermarket installations where the heat hasn't already been kind of figured out ahead of time. One of the phrases I tell you is if you can give your inverter a hug, if you can get your arms around it, you've probably got enough space for it to cool itself. Also, keep in mind that the compartment that it's in will transfer that heat outside of the compartment, especially if it's metal, and so it'll equalize. Even though it's breathing its own hot air, the compartment may be getting rid of some of that air. The other thing to think about is charging in a combination inverter charger. Charging produces more heat than inverting does. So charging is really where you want to watch your heat dissipation.
Yeah, the funny thing is everything that people see are through videos. And sometimes it's hard to make justice to the space. Because when you see like a video of a space, you'll be like, that's way too small. But in reality, there are plenty, the opening is really big for the inverter charger. What doesn't mean that it's small for me to go inside, but I'm much bigger than an inverter charger. So people are like, oh, so if you're just so tight inside working on that, that means it's a really small space, but it's not that small for the charger. So I think it's going to be okay. I mean, we've been using for a month, and so far, so good. It's just...
Yeah, I'm not worried.
Yeah.
So speaking of space capacity, obviously you can't just put a whole bunch of pieces of redundant equipment on just in case something fails. So unless you tow a second boat behind you. But is there... how did you decide which pieces of equipment you wanted to have redundancy and which pieces you didn't feel it was necessary?
We didn't yet. We are gonna talk to you guys before we do this.
Yeah, I mean, like redundancy. Like for example, I think what you need to have redundancy is things that your life depend on. For example, my life don't depend on an inverter. It's really good for my life, but if I stay out 1 month without an inverter, I can still have solar panels that charge my batteries. That I can have a GPS or something. It's good. Bilge pump. If I have water coming inside of the boat, I need a pump to pump the water off. So I cannot have one bilge pump. I need to have 2 bilge pumps. So this boat used to have just one bilge pump. Electrical one. We have like a manual bilge pump and one electrical. Now we have 2 electricals in case one electrical fails, because it's a situation where you do need, if you don't have a pump, you sink. But if, for example, solar panels, we don't have one solar panels, we have many solar panels. So I think it's, just as you said, if we start having 3 of everything, we need 2 boats. It's just, I mean, like, I think first of all, you need to choose the right equipment that you can trust more. I'm not saying that is never going to fail. Of course, everything can fail, but the quality of the equipment you use makes a lot harder for failing. So we, first of all, we decide on equipments that we believe is not going to fail, and that's mainly the reason why we chose Xantrex. Is we didn't even know Xantrex before, but when we bought the boat, the day one, we spent 3 hours with the former owner presenting us every single corner of the boat. He opened up every single cabinet. And when he showed out, and underneath here, there is a inverter charger, his eyes were like shiny. He was like smiling, and I'm serious. I have a film on our cell phone. Yeah. He was really excited. He was like, this is just magical because I connect to the shore power and connect my batteries. And and he's like so excited. I'm like, hopefully this is still working because I want this equipment because he's so excited about that I want this to work. And then we thought it was not working, and that's when we contacted Xantrex. Like, guys, the thing is, we have equipment that you guys built like 25 years ago, and we want your advice. Should we fix that? Should we get a more modern one? And when we got our more modern inverter charger, we realized that our old one was actually still working. That's crazy. Our friend charged his batteries yesterday using the old unit, to be honest. And so that's reliable. It's been sitting without turning on for 23 years and it still works. So, I mean, like.
So just had a question come in just now, actually, from Duca and Roberta for Don, and they want to know, what would you recommend for redundancies in their solar panel system?
I would recommend that you don't need redundancies. Our inverters will last forever. We've actually done some things in the model that Duke and Roberta have in their boat. We've kind of changed some of the things that we've traditionally done, and one of the things is that our transfer relay is in its default position is in pass-through. So even if you do have some kind of catastrophic failure, you can still plug into shore and it'll pass it through. Historically, inverters were always resting on the inverter side. So if you had a catastrophic failure, you plug in, you get nothing. So we've done some things. Plus, the inverter that they're using now is actually very reliable. So I would not recommend redundancying anything on your electrical system. So
sorry?
I feel more confident now.
So somebody is asking about their motorhome. Don, maybe you could give a quick a way that you could understand the difference between PWM, MPPT charge controllers,
Sure.
and then which one is Duca and Roberta using, and why was that the recommendation in their case?
So PWM stands for pulse width modulated, and all that means is the solar panels will produce a higher voltage than your batteries can take. So what the solar controllers will do is it'll turn them on, the pass-through, turn it on and then turn it off, and then turn it on, turn it off, and do it. It does it very fast, and then it filters it out. And so you get kind of a little bit less of the peak voltage, and it works for the output. If you want the voltage to drop, the off time is a little bit longer than the on time. And the problem with those is you're getting this much wattage out of your solar panels, and you're getting that much wattage when it's on, but zero when it's off. And so you lose an awful lot of your potential when you're trying to use a PWM solar controller. They're less expensive, and so they're a good option for certain people. An MPPT works a little bit differently. MPPT stands for maximum power point tracking. And what that'll do is that'll bring the solar panels in. One of the benefits of MPPT is you can actually run all your solar panels in series, so you can bring it in at really high voltages, 70 volts, 100 volts. And what it'll do is it'll put it through a DC to DC power supply and actually control the output voltage based on the maximum power point. So it starts to draw current until your solar panels start to suffer a little bit, and that says that's our maximum power point. It'll start using that to charge the batteries. MPPTs tend to be a little more expensive, but instead of losing 30% of your energy in a PWM, you lose about 7% of your energy in an MPPT. And so you could actually go with a larger, you magically create a larger solar system by just pulling out a PWM and putting in an MPPT. You can gain some energy that way. I believe the one that they're using is our MPPT. And and the cost of the MPPTs have come down. They used to be a lot more expensive than PWMs, but the cost gap is narrowing a little bit lately. But I definitely recommend the MPPTs just because you get everything you can get out of that solar panel, and because you're bringing it in at higher voltages, even at low light levels, like with a PWM, if you get low light levels, as soon as your panels are below that 14 volt level, the PWMs can't charge your batteries anymore. But with MPPTs, because you're automatically at a much higher voltage, they'll take any input from, like I said, 100 volts down to about 16, 17 volts, and it'll use whatever it can. So even at low light levels, an MPPT will give you much more energy to your batteries.
Yeah, and we could not install in series with an PWM, right? The way we installed,
right.
with a PWM.
PWMs have to be much closer to the output voltage.
Yeah.
And also because we are gonna use lithium batteries.
Yeah, we need also we the way we design our system is to get ready to when we are ready to install lithium batteries. So
right.
we are just deciding on every equipment that is that we can use with lithium, even though we don't have lithium yet.
It's like what I was saying before. Get a solar controller that works for the battery you have, and that'll work for the battery system you'll have down the road. So yeah.
So in light of that, it doesn't sound like these components or these pieces need to be switched out all that often. Wesley, somebody's asking about the life of some of the components between the panels, the inverter, chargers. What do you typically recommend is the life cycle of this type of equipment?
So I'll speak to the solar panels first. Solar panels definitely, as long as you don't abuse them, they can last quite a long time. And in the PV industry, typical warranties can go from 10 years to 25 years. And also the different types of solar panels. If you have a flexible solar panel versus a glass solar panel, typically glass solar panels will be more durable than flexible solar panels, just in the nature of the fact that you can bend flexible panels. They're more prone to solar cell cracks, and so the durability is not as good compared to glass panels. For the charge controllers, I would expect them, just like our inverter charger, to last forever. We offer a 5-year warranty on our charge controllers, and it just especially they're meant to be installed indoors. So of course, if you install them outdoors, then it's not intended for that type of environment. So I would imagine the life expectancy would be less than if it was installed indoors. So it depends, but I would say the equipment that Roberta and Duca have installed, should last for many, many years. Yeah.
So Robert, go ahead. No,
sorry, no.
No, you're good. Go for it.
Because on the other question, you said, Wesley, about the quality of the build itself.
Mm-hmm.
Just one curiosity: the solar panels that were on the boat when we bought, they were sitting there for 25 years, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is that even though they were still working theoretically, like they were still producing energy, the frames were destroyed. The aluminum frame was even though they still produce energy, we could not use because of the frame. That's just so basically the construction sometimes can last long than the cell itself.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because if you have cells but you don't have a frame, would be more expensive to create a new frame than to buy a new solar panel. So we just gave as a gift to my dad.
So Wesley, somebody else, Robert on YouTube, is asking for a 12-volt electrical system. would you suggest 12 volt, 24 volt, or 48 volt panels, or is something else more efficient?
So for most people, the only solar panels that are available to you are the 12 volt battery panels or 18 volt nominal panels. 24 volt panels or 48 volt panels. 48 volt panels are extremely rare. 24 volt panels, you're really looking at panels the size that are 300 watts or more. They're very, very large panels. You probably need two people to carry them. So for most people, for most vehicle-based applications for solar, you're going to be looking at 12-volt battery or 18-volt nominal panels. And so you can you can wire them in series, so you can charge a 24-volt battery. But it's not so much, when it comes to the question of efficiency, it really comes back to which charge controller you're using. So Don talked about PWM versus MPPT. PWM charge controllers are at least 30% less efficient than MPPT charge controllers. So we certainly recommend MPPT, especially for larger solar arrays. But if you're very cost conscious, then absolutely go with the PWM. And if you go with the PWM charge controller, we recommend that you wire them only in parallel to keep the voltage as close to the battery voltage as possible, so you don't lose that efficiency. Yeah.
So Duca and Roberta, Brad on Facebook is asking, which Xantrex inverter model do you have, and what appliances do you plan to use most often that are going to require the inverter?
We have a Freedom 2000
Freedom XC 2000.
and appliances.
We work with videos. We edit videos every single day of the year. So the main thing for us to have an inverter charger on the boat is to be able to use the computer.
And cameras.
And cameras, yeah. I mean, like the whole thing. To film, to charge batteries, and to edit on the computer.
Yeah.
That's our main thing. Of course, we're going to still do some extras, like on the kitchen, blenders and all these kind of things. But we could live without a blender. We could not live without charging batteries and editing videos, because that's just... It's our fun, our hobby, but also our job. So mainly, the unit we have is this one. That's 2,000 watts inverter, and it's a 80 amp charger. If we decide to go with induction cooking, we might need to replace in the future for 3,000 watts, because I think for induction it's going to be a little bit too small. I mean, like we could, if you use one burner, and maybe if you use like two burners on low heat, but it's going to be right on the edge. I think it would be better to have a 3,000 watts, maybe.
So Brad's asking a follow-up question, Wesley or Don. He says he's got a converter, he's got an inverter, and he's wondering if the new Freedom inverters run cooler and take up less space than the older model. He's asking, what's the most powerful inverter I can run with a 2-gauge wire to increase his overall power?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the new XCs are quite a bit smaller and run a bit cooler than what than any of the inverters before. So the Freedom line was started back in the 90s, and they were low frequency inverters, so they were very transformer based. They were big, they were heavy. These ones are high frequency inverters, so they're smaller. They're a lot more thermally forgiving and a bit more efficient. But as far as 2-gauge wire, that's a difficult one to answer, because there's so many other things involved, like how long is that 2-gauge wire? You want to watch out for voltage drop and things like that. But if your cables are fairly short, you can get away with a 2,000 watt inverter and do all right. But you really want to start with your loads. Size your loads, size your inverter to match the loads, size your cable to match the inverter, and then size your fuse to match the cable. And if you go in that order, you'll end up with a well-designed system. But if you start with one of those components in the middle, then you've kind of got to chase your tail back around to get a system that works. But a lightweight 2,000 watt inverter would be fine with 2-gauge wire if the cables are fairly short.
So ahead of time,
one thing I know is that it's less loud. The old one that we have, because we have a Freedom 1000 that's 25 years old, the new one is so much quieter.
Yes.
The fan is just, the other ones, you know it's on, like there's something on there. Yeah. The new one is so much better.
So we had a similar question come in ahead of time from Brian for Dawn, and I'm just going to read Brian's specifics here. He's got a 26-inch Class A, and he's got on order the Freedom XC2000. He'll be running it on 2 Lifeline 6-volt batteries for now, and the inverter will be more in the range of 6 feet of the batteries, and he wants to use 2-gauge wire. Do you figure this is okay? And are there charts somewhere that he can figure this out for himself and double check?
Yeah, actually, there's a number of cable sizing charts. Each inverter has its own cable sizing chart inside. If it's less than 5 feet, use this size cable. If it's more than 5 feet, use this size. I think for what I'm hearing, if I remembered all the numbers right, I think he's instead of 2 gauge, he really needs to be in that 2-aught kind of size. But if you just do a simple Google of cable sizes for amperage, that'll give you an idea. Also consider looking at voltage drop calculations, and there's algorithms out there all over the place, and they're all very complex. But you want to keep your voltage drop under 1/4 of a volt. And the reason for that is because a 2,000 watt inverter will be a 2,000 watt inverter as long as it gets good nominal voltage, which is about 12 volts. But as your voltage starts to drop, the inverter becomes smaller. So at 11.5 volts, it might be, a 1,000 watt inverter might be an 800 watt inverter before it starts to overload. So when you go with a big inverter and you make it, you mount it far away from the batteries and you use the standard size cable, then what happens is if you get a full volt drop between the battery and the inverter thinks the battery's dead and might actually shut off because it's seeing a lower battery voltage than what you're actually getting at the battery, simply because the voltage is dropping across the cable. So keep the cable short. Make your AC cables longer if you have to, but keep your DC cables short.
Sorry, Brian's commenting. Thank you for watching live, Brian. I misread the question. He is planning to use 2/0, 2-aught cable.
Yep.
So I apologize, Brian. Thank you for correcting me, and thank you for watching. Mark's asked on YouTube, is it possible to have a fully electric motor that is powered by solar? And if so, for a boat your size, how much energy would you need?
Can I try to answer that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an expert on that, but I believe you would need way too many solar panels. I mean, of course, it all depends on the range you want. You want an engine that you can run for 10 minutes? Would be possible. You want an engine that you can run for 1 hour? In our case, I think would be really hard because it would need a lot of solar panels and so many batteries. That's like a huge discussion. That's more of a, how do I say, like a conceptual way of thinking. Like some people think that a sailboat should only sail and should not even have an engine. Some people think that for safety you should have a reliable engine that when you need the engine is there. Some people think that when there is too much wind you should not rely on the engine, you should rely on the sails. And I do agree with these kind of thoughts also. But I think I don't want an engine that I can only run for 10 minutes because sometimes it might help you to have an engine that runs for 1 hour or 2 or 3 or 4. So
one option is to go hybrid, is to have solar panels and also a generator that you can run, a diesel generator, so you can use both.
If that's what we've been talking for the past months, actually we were already talking with a manufacturer of electrical engine before COVID started, and COVID just dropped down our conversation. This has happened. But our idea was to have a hybrid system, to have a modern diesel generator plus an electrical engine. And some people would say, but why should you do that? So you still have a diesel engine. But to be honest, it's different to have an engine that is just an engine, to have a generator that uses a lot less diesel and that you can use on and off all the time, because you use the diesel generator to recharge the batteries. Once they're full, you can run on electric for a while, and then you can come back to the diesel generator, and then you can go. So I think you would save a lot of diesel by using this system, and that means that you would have a lot smaller engine if compared to our main diesel engine that's huge. So it's like it's like maybe half ton our main diesel engine. So that means that it's like somewhat in between electrical engine and diesel engine. I think would be a really good system, but for now, it's just COVID didn't allow us to do that.
So a question came in, Don and Wesley, you guys can fight over this one, but it's from Super Glider Man. And so I think he wins for screen name of the year, but he's asking, when you buy an inverter to use with your solar panels, does it have to state that it's for solar panels, or will any inverter work with solar panels?
I'll take it. All right. I was checking to see if Wesley was going to argue with me. No, so no, it doesn't necessarily, because the solar panels feed the battery. The battery is then, or the inverter then drains from the battery. So as long as your solar controller is designed for your battery, the inverter doesn't really care. It's just going to take the DC that the solar is trying to put into the battery. So no, your inverter doesn't have to be specifically a solar inverter. And in fact, in the mobile environment, that may steer you in the wrong direction, because there are inverters that are intended to attach to solar panels only without a battery buffer. And that's when you get into your grid tie systems and land-based systems. But in the mobile market, marine industry, RV industry, and that kind of thing, just a mobile inverter charger is what you're looking for.
Okay, Wesley, since Don stole the last one, a question came in from David on YouTube. He asks, how much of a difference will shadow from the line or sail make to the performance on the panels? And with this in mind, what would your recommendation be for series and parallel? I know we kind of already touched on what Duca and Roberta are planning. Can you give a more general idea of when series or panel work well, and which would you recommend around the sail?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's a very common question I get. What impact does shading have on how solar panels are wired? So first, let me talk about the different configurations. So there's series, parallel, and then you can do combination series and parallel. So the conventional understanding is that you should never wire panels in series in terms of if you want to protect against shading. That's actually not quite true. There is some truth to that, and I'll explain. So when you wire panels in, you can actually wire panels in series on a boat. So what Duca and Roberta had is actually not a problem. And the reason why it's not a problem is because you're wiring the solar panels in series, but it's a single string. A single string means a string is just a series of solar panels wired in series. So a number of panels just wired positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative to one another. So if one of the panels is shaded, the other two panels that are wired in series with it will actually continue to work. And current will continually flow from the panels to the charge controller to the battery, as long as the voltage of the solar array is higher than the battery. So that's actually not a problem. Where that conventional understanding of if I shade a panel and the other panels are completely wiped out in a string, that comes from the combination series parallel in large solar arrays where there are multiple strings in a solar array. So if you have a solar string, let's say that's 100 volts, and then a second string that's another 100 volts. If one of the panels in the first string is shaded, and let's say the voltage of the string goes down to 75, the entire string is knocked out because it can't compete with the higher voltage second string, which is at 100 volts. So the entire string is actually not able to produce power. But because Duca and Roberta only have a single string, so if one of the panels is shaded, the other two panels will actually continue to work and provide power. So whether you can actually have series or parallel, and especially for a boat, you're not typically going to have a very large solar system. So it's actually okay to wire your panels in series. What's more important is actually to the placement of your panels. Placing an area where it's unobstructed, where there's less shadows, where it's in a more open space. You can wire them in parallel. You can have multiple charge controllers. So there's a number of ways that you can do this, so that to avoid shading. But it's what Duca and Roberta have done is actually not a problem, and it should work fine for them. Yeah.
So another question came in, Wesley. Actually, a few people on YouTube, somebody on Facebook, and then a question that came in ahead of time for you is, what improvements do you see in the next generations of solar panel as far as weight, capacity, ratio, marine resistance, recycling? And do you anticipate those to be step-by-steps, or do you anticipate a large jump towards improvements?
This is a great question. So solar is gaining a lot of traction. It's gaining a lot of interest. So traditionally, it's been used for just residential homes or for utility power plant applications. But now we're seeing more niche applications like mobile vehicles. So that's required a different type of solar panel. And you're starting to see that in, for example, flexible solar panels that are lightweight, can be installed on curved surfaces. And so these are specifically designed for those applications. And that's part of that next generation, is just the ability to mount on various types of surfaces. With regards to efficiency of solar panels, solar panel efficiency is very, very incremental. So there is a theoretical limit called the Shockley-Quasar limit that actually limits the maximum solar efficiency theoretical limit of a solar silicon cell up to 32%. But for the majority of solar panel manufacturers, the most they can get out of a commercial grade solar panel, out of a solar cell, is 24%. So over time, year after year, you're starting to see like incremental improvements to that efficiency, but it's very hard to imagine 5 years from now we're going to get double the amount of power in the same square footage. But what's more important is actually the cost of solar is coming down over time. And so that's probably the biggest impact in terms of the adoption of solar for niche applications like vehicle markets like marine or RV and so on. So we do offer a flexible panel called Solar Max. It's one of the higher end solar flexible panels that you can find on the market. And the unique feature about that, it has many multi-wires across the solar cell. So basically it adds redundancy. And so that current can continue to flow through multiple pathways, even if there's incremental micro cracks in the cell. So the solar panel will really continue to produce power despite any micro cracks over usage of time. And so it's a very unique feature about from that flexible, and it adds a lot of longevity and years to the life of that solar panel. So technology like that you'll continue to see more and more popular over the years. So definitely keep an eye on, and Xantrex is working to bring the best and latest solar panel products to everyone.
So Gary is asking on YouTube, Duca and Roberta, have you considered putting panels on the side of the boat so that sunlight might reflect off the water or get caught in the side of the boat? And tell us a little bit about if you've thought about that at all, and the decision you made with that.
We thought, but
we thought there are some boats that they do like on the side that you can control like this. Like you can put on the guardrail, and then you can just tilt. You can tilt the panel according to the sun. It's a good idea. I think it's a good idea for the energy side of it, but it's really easy to hit the panel. I don't want a panel in a place that if I go to a dock, I can hit the panel on something. That's the main reason, because if we did that, we could easily add an extra maybe 1,200 watts. If we put like just 300, it would be like a lot of more watts, but I don't think it would be I think it's something that's too easy to hit, and I don't want something that we can break and can make. It's just that's the main reason why we decide not to have. But I think for the energy side of it would be really good.
So,
and by the way, we are maybe thinking of having flexible ones on the cockpit. That might be the way, so we can try both kinds. Because we never used the flexible one, so maybe we will have like flexible ones on the cockpit and then the glass ones that we have on the back.
Right.
Don, someone is asking if it's possible to damage the electrical system by connecting solar first and then the batteries. Is there any specific order you need to connect the system?
No, there's just keep in mind that if something else is connected, you're adding another DC source to a bus that's a DC bus. Some devices have capacitors in them, so sometimes you'll get that initial kind of spark as you connect. but I don't know of any components that would be damaged if you connected in a specific order or any other order. I don't think that's a concern. But when you talk about connecting, there are some things you need to consider. If you have solar and you're working on the electrical system, don't just disconnect your battery, because you could disconnect your battery, start working on your 110 volt system, but what's happening is your inverter is getting DC from the solar panels and still inverting, and so you still have live wires. So something to consider, but no, it's not going to affect the system by hooking it up in a different order.
Go for it.
Yeah, I have a question also about that. So every time, because we have a metal boat, right? So every time we need to weld something to the boat, I unhook the batteries. I always disconnect the batteries because I can have, I don't know exactly how, I don't know how to explain, but I would have problem because of the electricity of the welding.
Yeah.
Do I need to unhook the electrical the solar panels also, or not really?
Anything that's connected to anything electrical that has that uses the ground as a conductor, which is basically most of your DC circuits. Yeah, you want to disconnect those before you start welding.
Last time I did, just in case. I was not sure, but I was like, no, just disconnect everything, just to guarantee.
So Duca and Roberta, obviously there are lots of people who spend time on boats and they don't choose solar, or they don't have a necessity for solar, but obviously in your case it is. Tell us a little bit about your dream to get on the boat and why solar is such an important piece of
that. Freedom. I mean, for me, I just keep dreaming right now with the day that we anchor somewhere and we add an episode on the computer using solar. It's just amazing how you have just like a panel that 1 year ago you install on the back of the boat, and 1 year later you didn't do nothing to the system. You just left the panels there, and you can sit on the computer on the boat surrounded by water and edit a video that you post on YouTube. That's just, for me, it's just a dream. I mean, it's just like, I think it's the ultimate freedom to have something that you don't give maintenance to. Because if you have a diesel generator, every 6 months you need to change oil and filter and this and that, and it breaks and blah, 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 blah. A solar panel is just sitting there working for you 24/7. I mean, not 24 because there is nights. Yeah, but maybe 8 hours a day working for you. It's just amazing. I mean, like, it was amazing to test the old panels and to see that after 25 years sitting on the sun and they were still working. That's just unbelievable. I mean, like, that's just unbelievable. Of course, the old panels, you would need to have like twice the square footage to have the same amount of watts because they were not as efficient as today, but still they were still working. That's just, I mean, everyone needs energy to live, right? It's just like really hard. I mean, you could live without energy, you could, but it's much harder life if you don't have energy.
So yeah, I love it, and you know, we all love watching your journey. We originally were going to take our broadcast till about 2 minutes ago, and so, but everybody's agreed to stay on for a few more minutes. So if you're watching live right now, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, we would love it if you would leave a question in the comments for Duca Roberta or for the Xantrex team, and we will answer as many of those questions as possible. We still have a few more that came in before we got started, so we're going to try and work on answering those as well. Now is the time to get your question in. Wesley, somebody was asking about, Patrick actually on YouTube was asking about adding a Fresnel lens on top of your solar panel to bring in more light and increase the efficiency. Is that something that will help the solar panel function any differently?
Well, if the intent is to concentrate more light onto the panel, then absolutely you're going to get more power out of the solar panel. There are ways to do that without creating a Fresnel lens. You can have tilting brackets, so you can raise the angle of the solar panel to be more perpendicular. The rays of the sun would you want them to be perpendicular, hitting the surface of the solar panel to maximize the amount of power you get out of them. And So that would be one way. But Fresnel's, that's a first for me to hear how that's done. But if you can find a way to concentrate light onto the solar panel, definitely you're going to get more power.
I think
solar panel. Yeah.
I think you're kind of asking for trouble when you're talking about lensing a panel, because you're concentrating so much light into a smaller area, and that equals heat too.
Yes.
And so you would end up putting a lot of heat on a panel, where with the cost of the lens and everything else, you might as well put a second panel on. Just seems like a simpler solution. But that would be my concern, is how much heat is going on the panel, and are you going to end up melting things? Because there's a lot of YouTube channels out there where they use these lenses to melt nickels.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like a good idea.
Yeah,
someone commented in one of our videos saying that if we have like a little bit of water on the top, that creates like a lens because of the film thing of water. I don't know if it's true, but they said if there is a really thin film of water, it helps to the same. Yeah, just what you're talking. Just I'm not sure if it's true or not, but.
Yeah, so Don made a great point that it's panels are less efficient the hotter they get. In fact, most electronics are. They're less efficient the hotter it gets. So you do want to be careful of concentrating light and that heat buildup on the panel. And we do have temperature limits. Solar panel manufacturers will put temperature limits on the data sheet. So you want to make sure that the panel doesn't exceed that.
So Don, Ed asked a question ahead of time. He said he's already got a system in place, but he wants to replace the batteries with lithium. What else should he consider in his system? What else does he need to check?
Okay, so the first thing to check is anything that charges the battery. So if you have a solar controller, if you have a battery charger, if you have an alternator that's charging that battery, you want to make sure that they're configured for lithium. Now that's the downside. The things he can look forward to with lithium, and I'm a huge fan of lithium, is one of the lighter weight, the longer run times, the longer lifespan. Lithium has all kinds of benefits, and even some benefits a lot of people don't think about, like the higher static voltage. A lead-based battery is full in the high to mid 12s. 12.6, 12.7, and dead at about 10.5. So that's a huge voltage variance. So, fans and lights that are designed to work on 12 volts are designed to work on 12 volts. Well, when you put them on 10.5 volts or 11 volts, they tend to work harder. But with lithium batteries, their whole charge cycle is between 12.1 and 13.1. So their lowest voltage at dead or almost dead is still higher than 12 volts. So all your motors will work more efficiently, your lights work better, they don't produce as much heat. So there's all kinds of benefits to going to lithium. But the one that most people focus on is if you pull out lithium and put in the same volume or pull out lead and put in the same volume of lithium, you'll typically more than double your actual runtime during the day. So lithiums are great.
So, John is asking kind of in that same vein, both for Don and also for Duca and Roberta, how can you be sure, or how have you figured out that you have enough battery capacity? Is there any way that you've tested that or figured out how much you needed, and that's how you decided how much to put in?
If the lights turn off at dinner time, that's not enough battery.
I mean, let's put it this way. I think everything we use on the boat nowadays are more efficient than they used to be 20 years ago. For example, we replaced 100% of our lights last month to LED. So we run a test. We left one halogen light and we replaced the rest just so we could test how many amps I get from one bulb, old one, and all the rest. Our entire boat on was equivalent to 2 light bulbs back on the days. That means that we save so much energy just replacing everything we have to LED. That's just amazing. That's one thing. Of course, on the other hand, we use more often the computer than they used to use back on the days. But
we ran a calculation of what we plan to use and everything.
The whole thing. So we believe we use less energy now than they used to use on the same boat. We need less energy now than 25 years ago when they used the boat. So this boat used to have only 200 No, two.
for batteries?
No, that was 4 batteries or 50. It was like 200 amp hours of batteries for service only. Now we replace for 600, and we're going to replace for 600 lithium batteries. So that means that we have like, you can multiply. It's like maybe 6 times more batteries than they used to have. And the autopilot nowadays use less energy. The GPS use less energy. The radar use a lot less energy. So everything we are adding to the boat is like energy. It's more smart. Use less power. And of course, as Roberta said, we did a list. We want to have this. We want to have that. We may use Xantrex. We have like a lot of like discussion with friends with the whole thing. We believe it's enough. We believe it's more than enough. I think we have even more than we needed, but we have the space for. I think it's going to be good. If it's not enough, we can always fix later. It's not the end of the world. Like it's the boat is like a living organism that you can grow as you go and as you feel it's necessary. As my dad's friend, my dad has a friend that always tell me, Duca, this boat is not going to go to the moon, or your tiny house is not going to go to the moon. You're not working for NASA. You don't need to be 100%.
Perfect.
If you're 70%, the last 30% you can grow as you go, and you can get better, and you can learn and be more organic. You can learn what you need when you need, because you only know what you need when you need. It's just hard to predict 100%. You're like on the RV full time now. You know much more now than 2 years ago, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Like 2 years ago, it was like just like a thought. It was like, I believe I need that. I believe I need that. And now we're like, oh, these I thought I wanted. I don't need that. Or these I didn't believe I wanted, and now I need that. So I think time will tell, and time will show if we're right or not. And we have no problem on doing mistakes. That's the main thing. Just learn with it and just keep going.
So Don, would you recommend a power planning audit? How would you perform that? Is there a less anecdotal way, a more exact way, or is the lifestyle version of let's try it and build what we need?
No, I think so. In their situation, they haven't been on the boat yet, so they're trying to make some educated guesses. But if you're looking to design a system, especially if you're doing a retrofit for a boat or an RV that you've been living in, you know how you use it. And so you start with your loads and how often how long you use each individual load, size the inverter appropriately, size the batteries appropriately. Obviously, your wires are a big part of that, and size that appropriately. But the other thing I will tell you is guess big. If you're going to guess big, because it's I said when the lights turn off at dinner time that you don't have enough battery. It's better to have a slightly larger than you need system than the annoyance of a slightly smaller system than you need. So yeah, just guess big.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid. I don't know if my dad, I think my dad is watching. When I was a kid, we used to have a 35-foot sailboat with me, my brother, my sister, my stepmom, and my dad. And he would always be, turn off the lights. You cannot keep the lights on. And I was a kid. I didn't really understand that. And now that we bought a boat that we replaced the old lights for LED, I totally understand, because one light of the old kind is just like wastes so much energy. It's just amazing. And now I think it's much easier to deal with batteries nowadays than it was 20 years ago. I think people like us that are starting now are lucky, because
Yes.
25 years ago, life was a lot harder to deal with the use of energy. I think now it's getting better and better and better.
So a question's come in a couple times on YouTube and also ahead of time in the questions that came in asking about the cost of solar panels and the cost of batteries. And Don and Wesley, would you anticipate that there's going to be a cost decrease in the next 5 years on solar panels and batteries?
Tell you what, Wesley, you take panels, I'll take batteries.
Sounds good. Do you want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you want me to go first? All right, sir. So the lithium batteries, I don't think you're going to see an increase in the next little while, and I say that because lithium batteries, the cost per watt hour has already come down a little bit as lithium technology is getting better and better. And there are a lot of lithium technologies, by the way. You've got lithium cobalts, which are better for cars and drones, and lithium iron phosphates, which are better for this kind of application where it's stationary energy storage, less volatile, not as prone to fires and things like that. And so when you're talking about a marine battery, lithium iron phosphate is definitely the way to go for all of those reasons. But the other thing is now popularity of lithium batteries, especially the lithium iron phosphates, are growing quickly, which is going to make demand decide the price. And so I don't think you'll see a drop in lithium battery prices in the short term. I think if you're looking forward 10 years, that kind of thing, they're going to do the same thing as the AGMs. I mean, AGM batteries, when they first started, they were really expensive, and then they dropped, and then they leveled out, and then they dropped again, and now they're a little bit more expensive than your traditional flooded. I think we're in that leveled out spot right now. So I'll anticipate a price drop in 10 years, but not in 5.
Wesley, what about solar panels?
Yes, so similar to Don's comment, solar panels are every year they're growing in terms of their adoption, and as more people are buying solar and the demand increases, the cost will inevitably go down. For example, the silicon cells, it's definitely it's actually less. How the cost comes down is actually solar panel manufacturers improving the manufacturing process is actually less on the raw material costs. So a good example is silicon cells. It's like the second most abundant element in the earth. So silicon itself is very cheap. But where solar panel manufacturers are really trying to lower the cost is the manufacturing process, and trying to decrease the cost for manufacturing each solar panel. Another consideration for people who are cost conscious about adding solar to their system is also think about the installation time. So if you're, for example, getting a professional installer to install solar panels, there's for example, we have a flexible panel. The Solar Max panels have a peel and stick adhesive, which allows for extremely fast and quick and easy installations without having to drill holes through a roof, without having to take 2 people to lift up a heavy solar panel. So there's methods of installing solar panels that are very fast and easy that weren't there before, and that lowers the overall cost to the consumer, not just the cost of the product, but also the cost of installation time as well. So that's the other consideration as well. And yeah.
So that's what's coming up for the solar industry. Is there anything specifically you guys are between Wesley and Don? Wesley, let's start with you. Is there anything specifically in the solar industry that you see coming down the road that you're excited about?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we're excited about. Definitely, I'll just speak to the Xantrex solar program. We launched our program last summer, 2019, and we've been working very hard on the program, and we've been using the best technologies that are out there, and we have some exciting new products in 2021 that are going to be coming out, and so we don't want to announce it yet, but we are very excited to be able to add
we'll keep it between us. Safe
adding
right
to our
here.
Xantrex solar portfolio, but definitely solar panels specific to the marine environment and designed is something that I'll give. That's a bit of a hint for you. So.
Don, what do you see coming?
So I'm actually still pretty excited about lithium. It's funny that I've become such a lithium advocate when just if you were to turn back the clock just 4 years, I was pretty anti-lithium just because of the safety factor, and now that I've gotten familiar with the new technologies of lithium, and you've got lithium batteries that are actually UL listable, which means they're safe and all that. I've seen some promising things coming out of some different technologies of batteries, and I'm trying to think of the words now. But there's some batteries that the technologies are just now emerging that will be smaller than lithium, more energy packed than lithium, but that's going to be 10, 20 years down the road before they even get into prototyping. But where you could get a pack the size of your laptop that would actually run your entire system. You're getting into 600 to 800 amp hours in something that small. But it's a long ways off. But the thing I'm really excited about as far as Xantrex is concerned, what we've been doing this in the land-based market for a while, and it's what we call our eGen, which is a lithium battery, an inverter, and an alternator, all as a package, because nobody likes their generators. Generators are terrible. They're underpowered for their ratings. They don't surge very well. They're loud. They need maintenance. They're expensive to own. And our eGen kind of takes all of that out. We can run a full system, including a rooftop air conditioner, for an 8-hour day with a single lithium battery that's about 600 amp hours. That's great. That's unheard of. We've put it together. We've been building it and selling it for about a year and a half now, and the success is. I was pretty excited about it. I was kind of questioning how successful it would be, and it's been great. And so I think taking that concept into other markets is probably what I'm most excited about in the short term.
So Duca and Roberta, we've talked about what Wesley and what Don are looking forward to, and we are all looking forward to seeing your boat hit that water. So tell us a little bit about what do you have next between getting that boat splashed down?
We need to finish the plumbing system. I mean, we are like this close to finish the plumbing system. Today we needed like 3 new clamps for the hose. It's just like on the end you just go back and forth to the store to buy supplies like 5 times a day, and that slows you down a lot. So right now I think what we need to finish is just the water system. It's like nothing. Plumbing system is like just nothing. And then we are ready to close the water tank and the diesel tank. That sounds sounds like something simple, but for us it's a huge job.
Yeah.
Just so you understand, this is a metal boat, and both the water and the diesel tanks are part of the hull of the boat. So the bottom of the boat are the tanks, and we have 15 or 16 leads. Like, I don't know, the camera cannot get, but it's like 15 big leads, like with like maybe 20, 30 screws each one, and with a rubber gasket. And we did a full refit of all the tanks, like of sanding and painting and the whole job. And closing the tanks, it's like more than just closing the tanks. It's just like
a milestone.
It's like a huge milestone for us. And closing the tanks and not having leakage on the tanks, that's going to be like, if that happens.
And start using water.
Yeah, I cannot even imagine closing the tank and open up the faucet and having water. That's just going to be amazing. And if we do these 3 things, we still need to raise the boat up higher, because we, like a sailboat, you have a mast and you have a keel. Our boat is a little bit different. We don't have a keel. We have a centerboard. That means we have a lifting keel. It's like a swing keel. And the way the boat is right now, it cannot put the keel down all the way. We need to raise a lot higher the boat. And we never seen our centerboard down 100%. So in like a week or so, we're going to raise the boat higher and put the centerboard down, and the boat's going to just grow up, because it's just going to be maybe 4 meters from the ground. It's going to be so much higher. That's tense moment. And then after that, we go to the water.
We are just waiting for the rain to stop.
Yeah, because we need to, the last part we didn't paint of the boat is inside of the box where holds the keel.
The trunk.
It's called the trunk. Yeah, the centerboard trunk. We need to put it down and paint inside. Yeah. And that's a tricky job that we didn't do yet. That's going to be hopefully start next week, I think. Kind of.
And that's it.
And then we go.
So I want to thank you guys for joining us, and for Xantrex, for having Don and Wesley, and for inviting me. It's been a real blast. Duca and Roberta, if somebody wants to find out more about what you're doing, they want to see more about your renovation on the boat, obviously YouTube, where they're watching right now, but where else can they track you down? What's the best place for them to get more information about what you're up to?
I think our Instagram, right?
Anyway, Instagram website. We have a website. She's complaining to me for the past 1 week. She wants to build a new website, and I'm like, do you want to go to the water or you want a new website? Because I cannot do all at once. We do have a website. I love our website. She says it's too slow. Roberta thinks it's too slow, and for the last 2 days she's just like trying to find out how to build a website because she really wants a new website. And I'm like, people don't check websites anymore. They just check YouTube and Instagram. They don't care about the website. But we do have a website, and we have an email on the website. That's onlifecrafting@gmail.com.
And our Facebook account.
Our Facebook, we have a Facebook group. You can find facebook.com/OddLifeCrafting. You can find us on Instagram, OddLifeCrafting.
So on Google, OddLifeCrafting.
You'll find, yeah.
You can find.
And another way to have, because we do answer, I would say like 95% of the messages. The only messages we don't answer on Instagram and on YouTube and on Facebook are messages that are not respectful. If you send a message that you're not respectful, you don't deserve an answer. But we do try to answer 100% of everyone's message, but it's getting harder and harder and harder because we do need to work, otherwise the boat won't go to the water, and we have a lot of messages. So good way to be closer, to have a closer group. Like, it's not for everyone. I mean, like, just people that really are in love with what we are doing and they want to support us and to be part of this community. We have a Patreon page that's basically half of everything that we do on the boat is paid by patrons. That are people that just really love what we are doing and want to support us. In this community, we have an extra blog with them. So we have a Patreon page where we communicate directly to our patrons. We have a WhatsApp group with our patrons. So for example, right now, we said that we have just 3 things to do to go to the water. But in fact, we have like maybe 6 things to show on video, on future videos that we didn't show you yet. But all the patrons, they know in advance what happens. So this week we tried a steering wheel in place after 1 year. You didn't see the picture, they saw the picture. So it's just a closer, like a closer community that, of course, not everyone likes that much what we do, but some people do. So it's just like, it's nice to, grow a community around what we love and like finding people with the same interest, and it's just amazing. Yeah, by the way, we just want to thank everyone that watch our videos, everyone that it's part of the Patreon page, and it's just...
And our partners.
And our partners, yeah, of course. Zentrak is just our partner we've been talking to for like, I would say like 10 months already. And it's just amazing. We love this relationship. We love every time we have a face call. It's just like, it seems like we are friends already. It's just amazing. We never see in person each other, but it's really cool. And all of that because our audience. The audience is just amazing to have like such a broad audience, because we went to the Miami Boat Show this year and we met other people with other channels, like Americans and most Americans with channels, and they'd be like, yeah, our audience is like 80% Americans. Our audience is just crazy. It's any country you can imagine, there's someone that watches our channel. Maybe because English is not our first language, and people that don't have English as their first language also like to watch someone, it makes easier, like more, we speak simple. We don't complicate, because we just don't know how to complicate English. It's just the way it is. And
sometimes you complicate more than...
Yeah, true. Yeah, but this, I'm just saying that to explain how big of different places and different cultures. One of the main reasons why we have a YouTube channel is because we want to meet people from different cultures. The reason why we want to travel by sailboat is because we want to meet different friends from different cultures. And we, in this past 3 years, been talking to people from so many different countries, and that's just blow our mind. It's unbelievable. We wouldn't believe we'd get this far on the amount of different cultures we met already. We are really thankful, and some people might think we take that for granted. We don't take that for granted at all. Every single day we're thankful for what it's been going on in our lives. That's just amazing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much also to everybody who left a question. I know we didn't get to all the questions, and maybe you're watching this afterwards, after we're not currently live anymore. If you're watching it afterward, please leave a question, and the Xantrex team and Duca and Roberta will do their best to answer all those questions right here on Facebook and YouTube. Duca and Roberta, thank you so much for joining us from Brazil. Don Wilson, thank you so much for joining us from Indiana. Wesley, thank you so much for joining us from the office next to me. And my name's Adam McLaughlin. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out today. We had a ton of fun. We'll see you again soon.
Guys, thanks so much. Thank you, guys. You're awesome.